What is up, everybody? Welcome in. It is episode 80 of the Barking Brown
80.
Show. I'm your host, Jacob at Roachism13, joined by my co-host, Mr. Nick Carnes at Carnesies817. Nick, how are we doing this fine festive Tuesday evening?
And I'll tell you what, 80, Jacob. Every time you say that, I just appreciate what we've been doing for this long, and it's amazing how it started. So, episode 80, man, we're just chugging along. Rain, shine, snow, ice, Browns. Here we are.
pretty. I mean, if there's any other way to address it, that's the way to address it. Guys, we are brought to you, as always, by our friends at Homage Apparel. We've got the Homage Apparel on here. I just dropped a link to the Homage, the Browns homepage for the Homage in YouTube and Facebook. If you're on Twitter and you want to interact with the show, hop on over to YouTube or Facebook, where we can see your comments. We can see your comments here on Twitter. If you're checking us out on the YouTube, please give us that thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. If we hit 1,000 subscribers, there may be an opportunity for a Cavs game with some co-hosts on this network. I will be doing the Hot Ones Hot Sauce Challenge at some point.
Can't wait.
Yeah, but Homage, best stuff in the market. Soft, great, we love it. They're amazing. They got the starter jackets. Get them before they sell out. Because they are selling really, really quickly. So let's dive on into it, man. We got a lot to talk about. Just some housekeeping things real quick, though. If you want to support the network, we do have a Patreon, patreon.com/network_216. $5 a month. That helps support everybody that everything that we got going on in the network. The Yard Dogs preceded us here on YouTube and Twitter and all those places. You can go check them out. Down with the Browns and the Scarlet and Gray podcast yesterday. Some great episodes, some great Browns therapy there. I just wrote a piece for Dog Pound Daily. You can find that on the website, asking, do the Browns need to make coaching changes? And I look at special teams, defensive coordinator, defensive backs coach, as well as Kevin Stefanski. And it's a 3-pager. It's a lot. I put a lot of time and energy into that, and I think it's a pretty good piece. So you guys go check that stuff out.
And don't forget, if you're looking for a little bit of sunshine, I agree. Go Cavs. We've got more episodes coming. We had a blast the first time. I think this time we're going to be joined by Tyler. Last time we had Zach along with us. It's going to kind of be a rotating set of hosts for the show. But we're really excited about that because A, the Cavs are great, and B, the Cavs are fun. So what's not to like? We had a great time the first time. It's going to be a lot of fun the second.
I just dropped a link into YouTube or Facebook for the Patreon if you want to help us out. We really appreciate that sort of stuff.
I agree.
Okay. Special episode of I Agree Go Cavs drops tomorrow morning. So we're going to get that up and running in the morning. It won't be live, but we'll get it up and running for you guys then. All right, guys. So let's dive into it. There's a lot to talk about. There's a lot of really interesting discourse going on Twitter. And I do suggest that maybe some people to take a little bit of a break from the social media, because we've got people at each other's throats over a 2-5 football team. And I don't, deep breaths, man. Deep breaths. I want to say hi to Josh, and Big Papa's in here, and Andrew's in here like he always is. MC's in here. We appreciate you guys joining us on YouTube's. I think it's crazy, man. Like, I think this is not what a lot of us thought. And I'll even start talking about some of the numbers, and they just don't scream 2-5 football team. And so it's just really not where we thought we would be. But we're going to dive into all of that. We're going to dive into the game. We're going to dive into statistics. But Nick, where do you want to start? I know you're pretty good and riled up. So where do you want to start?
There's so many places to go with this, but you know what? The Browns keep finding ways to get leads in a lot of these games. I think aside from the Patriots game, the Browns have these other 4 losses by a combined, I don't want to get 9 points. 9 points have separated you from 4 wins from 4 losses in total. And it is just it feels like so many of these games are just coming down to inches and such little pieces that I know we're going to get into, but I think they've just been coming out on the wrong side of it. And I'm not trying to, there's a lot of doom and gloom. There's a lot of doom and gloom, and I'm not here to blow smoke or sunshine to anybody. But I'll tell you this: we did not wait all these months.
Can you hear me? Because like my sound just died. Oh, great. So now I can't hear you. This is weird. Drive. We lost audio from you, Nick, it says. Can anybody hear me? Oh, boy. Oh, there you are.
I don't know.
You muted your mic, didn't you?
Yes, but I didn't touch anything. No, but it's muted, but it didn't touch anything. I don't know how that happened. Well, okay. I guess.
So what were you saying?
I didn't I kind of had a move like I'm not sure if that was the penalty on the punt on the field goal or if that was the Amari Cooper push off, but it was something. So I'm just following suit. Just to summarize, we did not wait all this time for this Browns season to declare it over and done and forget the Browns by week 7. I didn't. And I'm not, that's just that there's a lot of that talk out there. There's a lot of people that are really frustrated, and I don't blame you one bit. I mean, this hasn't been fun. It's not fun. I've been at First Energy Stadium for the Patriots and the Jets games, and what is that? I don't even know what that has been. My last 4 Browns games I've attended were the Chargers lost in LA, the Cardinals game with you, the Jets game this year, and the Patriots game this year. So if you want to know how that's been, but anyway, long story short, we're 7 weeks in. We waited all this time. We broke down all these things. We talked about this whole season. I cannot imagine throwing in the towel on the whole season after doing that, and I'm not going to. And that's kind of what I was trying to say. So thank you I apologize for the technical difficulties. I don't.
Yeah. Okay. So there's a lot of things that can be said, and there's a lot of anger, and I think some of the anger is misplaced, and I think sometimes we get focused on certain things being the issue because we don't necessarily know what the issues are. And if that makes sense, what I'm saying is there's a lot of heat on Kevin Stefanski and the offense, and there should be a lot of heat on Stefanski in the sense that this is his ship. You are captaining this ship. If something is wrong somewhere along the lines with what is going on with your team, it ultimately falls on the guy at top. Rather, he's the one necessarily doing it or not, he is not finding ways to prevent it. He's not finding ways to make sure that this problem ceases, right? He's continuing to go out there and do whatever is going on that continues to let this stuff happen. Like, I understand putting guys out there because you're not sure who else can be out there and you paid certain people a lot of money, but I wouldn't have John Johnson on the football field on Monday. I wouldn't do it. I'm not going to do it. Dude's out there freaking, he looks like me when I was in Little League, and that was because I was afraid of contact because I was a little bitch, but he's a professional football player. So what are we doing here, right? Like, this isn't me and Pee Wee, and I love playing safety because most of the time that meant the player got tackled before it got to me. Yeah. So, like, it's not the same thing, right? And so I'm sorry, I'm trying to catch up with some of the comments, and they're not updating as quickly on one side as they are on the others. But anyway, sorry. But, it's not the same thing. And so I don't have an issue with play calling. I have an issue with some of the situational stuff, and you're going to have that. And Stefanski would probably in a private moment be like, yeah, maybe I should have done this here or done that or anything like that. I understand that sort of stuff. I think a lot of this falls on dudes on the other side of the ball not being able to check egos. And it comes to this. So last year it was Baker and Odell were cancers in the locker room, right? And so you get rid of Odell because you couldn't get rid of Baker last year. You weren't rolling with Case Keenum. You just weren't going to do it. And then you get rid of Baker. And you're like, okay, so everything should be fine. Now there's some of the same issues, and there's one piece that's still here. And that's JJ3. And I didn't plan on getting on a soapbox here, but like I am so sick and tired of listening to you tell me about effort and film study and then watching you look literally as bad as Phillips is, you were in the fucking way. There on that touchdown run, you were legitimately in his way. I think if you're not there, he makes the tackle because Phillips misses tackles.
He at least gets near him.
He at least gets a hand on him and attempts to bring him down. And what were you doing, Do-si-do? Ole, what are you? Like, I just, and this is where I come to Joe Woods. And I've said this in our group chats. I said this in the article. I don't hate Joe Woods' system because I think it can work. I think it worked in Seattle. I think it worked in San Francisco. I think it worked here last year towards the end of the year. What I don't think works is his ability to articulate and coach and lead what is in his head. He cannot get what is in his head onto the field properly. And this is year after year. So we're looking at it and it's like, I understand not firing a guy in season. I'm writing a blank check to Brian Flores as soon as this year is over. That dude ain't going to have these locker room ego. Right. Where's my leadership? That shit ain't happening with Brian. That's what Stefanski needs. He needs a strong leader on the other side, and he just doesn't have it right now.
I want to get to your Brian Flores point, but I just Free Sun, baby, not sponsored, but could be. Could be. I just want to say about John Johnson. I remember the episode of Building the Browns when John Johnson first got to Cleveland, and he's talking all this rah, but something stuck out to me. And there's this clip of him, and I don't remember who he was talking to at the time, but he's like, I want to be the best. I want to be the best. Like he emphasizes that he wants to be the best. And I mean,
sure don't look like it.
And there's countless other quotes from him talking all this, saying all these things about leadership and accountability and effort and all these great things that hyping everybody up. And then you look at the clips and it's just woof.
He told us this year was different. He said the vibe was different.
No. And see,
not on that side of the ball, it ain't.
We talked about this, I think, after I was talking to you about this after the Patriots game, and what concerned me was the first time I really was looking and saying, there's a lack of effort here. There is a lack of effort here. And you seeing more of it against the Ravens when in a game that you were up 10-0. You were up 10-0. And more often than not in these games, the Browns have had leads and they just continue to blow them. And so then you watch Gus Edwards, who is a fine running back in his own right, waltz into the end zone because you couldn't be bothered. And it's not like this. And that's the problem is there was tape very similar to this the previous week. Another touchdown run or Ramondre Stevenson touchdown run, right? So there's starting to be a little bit of a theme here. And as somebody who's making $12 million a year, there's a little disconnect here as to where the effort is. I'm not trying to be negative, but I mean, you can't deny this. It's so frustrating. It's because that's old Brown stuff. That's old Brown stuff that we thought we were way past. And it's just, and I get it. Nobody's going to try on every single play. I don't know. However you want to take that, but I mean, this is just egregious. It's egregious.
Okay. Josh says I'll never throw in the towel.
Thank
Though
you.
that doesn't mean I can't have my secondary and third team, the Bills and the Niners. Yeah, that's fine. I respect it. JJ3 is all bark, no bite. Yeah. There's an out in his contract post June 1, just so you know. Very similar to the out in Austin Hooper's contract. Heyo. All right. Josh says that there goes the backwards hat. Nick's about to go off.
I don't even know, man. I'm not, honestly, I don't have a plan. Jacob and I rarely have like a detailed plan. We just talk. And yeah, man, sometimes we're going to go down some of these roads that are just really frustrating. And I think we all deserve to be frustrated right now. Honestly, you're 2-5.
You should be frustrated. In like, I don't like to get on here and do nothing and not paint the whole picture and not look at everything and say that there are still some really good, like the David Njoku thing hurts a lot. There's only one more productive tight end in football right now, and that's Travis Kelce. But
damn it,
it's kind of like I told you what was going to happen. Anyway, so that one really, really hurts. But I continue to say, like, when we talk, so let's talk about Stefanski because he's under fire, right?
Okay.
Let's talk about I'm going to write this down here, but let's talk about Kevin Stefanski in the sense of why you shouldn't move on from him, because that's my stance. I do not believe that Kevin Stefanski should lose his job going into 2023. So Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski hitched their wagon to Deshaun Watson. There is really no other ifs, ands, or buts. Rather, that was the owner, like some people believe, or what. It doesn't matter. They have hitched their wagon there. So there is no reason unless they don't win another game in which Kevin Stefanski won't be back next year. And what I'm going to do is we talk about play calling, we talk about usage, we talk about all these problems. Let's look at Kevin Stefanski this year with the offense. Let me ask you something, Nick. Do you think it is fair to say that a majority of Kevin Stefanski's games have featured a subpar quarterback quarterbacking his offense?
Yes. Yes, I do.
You have that 10-game stretch of Baker, who was really good in 2020, but he struggled out the gate. 2021 was mostly subpar, and this year's been mostly subpar. And what I mean is from a talent standpoint. I'm not talking about if they're producing or not. I'm talking about talent and the ability to strike fear in a defense. He just hasn't had that at quarterback. But let's look at some of this. Let's look at this. Okay, so Jacoby Brissett this year, let's talk about in the 7 games that Brissett's been here.
Okay.
Tied for career high 62.7 completion percentage. Tied. That's the career high. He had the same completion percentage last year in 2 less games. So that's tying the career high at 62.7. He is looking at, let's see here, on his average yards per game. He has currently by over 30 yards per game, averaging more than his highest season in passing yards per game under Kevin Stefanski. So his highest prior to this was 196.1. Right now it's 226.3. So you're talking about over his best season right now, he's throwing for over 30 more yards a game. Granted, I get that. In the other year, there was more games played. I understand that. But you're talking about elevation of a quarterback that had never averaged 200 yards a game, and now he's well over it in Kevin Stefanski's offense, in which we were told there was no talent at wideout outside of Amari Cooper. Okay, remember that when you talk about personnel and elevation of play. Okay, now let's go to 20. Would you look at that? Total yards, total offensive yards in the NFL: Kansas City Chiefs, New Orleans Saints, Cleveland Browns. So you're telling me this offense, man, Kevin Stefanski, he can't coach up an offense, but somehow 7 games in, 3rd most productive offense. Granted, I understand missed kicks, I understand turnovers. But when you look at all of that stuff and you say, Kevin has never had a creator at quarterback, go watch Deshaun Watson. Because of that, I look at all of these numbers and I say, yes, with Jacoby Brissett, I don't know how far they can go with Kevin Stefanski as the head coach, but an elite quarterback that can create. Kevin Stefanski has to create everything for his quarterback right now. And Jacoby Brissett is being efficient, sometimes not so much. And that is what defenses are capitalizing on, taking away some of the easy things that Kevin schemes open. You're talking top to bottom as the third most yards in the NFL with a quarterback that's probably somewhere in the 20s in terms of how good he is in the NFL. He's probably 25th. I don't think he's better than a ton of guys, especially when you talk about from a team, a talent standpoint. Kevin Stefanski gets dudes open. Nick Chubb, you talk he doesn't run the ball enough. Nick Chubb, third in the NFL in attempts, fourth in the NFL in attempts in the fourth quarter, first in rushing. They give some of that to Kareem Hunt, but DPJ is going to be an 800-yard receiver. Njoku, if he doesn't go down, 900-yard receiver. He's starting to really find these guys that have that talent that haven't fully produced, and he's developing them. Think of who Njoku was 3 years ago when Stefanski got here.
Yeah.
Blocking issues, drop concerns, wanted out. Now he is paid and playing like a top 5 tight end under Kevin Stefanski. Donovan Peoples-Jones, not developed, raw freak athlete, not developed at all in college. Turning into a really, really nice wide receiver 2 after being drafted in the 6th round.
Yeah.
He gets the most out of these players. Can you imagine when he gets an elite quarterback and he can take it to that next level? Stefanski is not the problem from that sense. I am worried about leadership and the ability to hold a locker room because this has now happened twice. And I understand winning cures everything, and Watson being back wins more games, and then that cures some of this. Schematically, offensively, play calling, Stefanski is a great coach in my mind, and that is not where you need to question. So no, I think 2023, Stefanski deserves a year with his guy. He's never had his guy at quarterback. And what I'm saying is, I'm not saying he'll be the coach for all of 2023 if it goes bad, but week 1, Kevin Stefanski will be the head coach of the Cleveland Browns next year because he will have a full year in front of him without any excuses for not winning football games.
I think, and this is going to circle back to your Brian Flores point too. Stefanski might not be that leadership guy that maybe some teams need a head coach, but if you can get leadership from other places, I think that certainly helps. And so, yes, I agree with you on Brian Flores as a guy that certainly makes a ton of sense on the defensive side of the ball. But also, now that we're getting closer and closer to the point where Deshaun Watson will be on the field for the Cleveland Browns, I think it's important to acknowledge that Watson's always been looked at as a leader, has always been looked on the field, has always been looked at as a guy that his team rallies around, has always been looked at as a guy that can carry the load and will make people around him better. So, maybe the leadership is going to come from your franchise quarterback. Maybe that's the type of structure that it goes. And you know what? Nobody questioned Kevin Stefanski's leadership when the Browns were winning games, right? So there's another piece to this where, is Kevin Stefanski a bad leader, or are the struggles of losing just adding up to the point where we're starting? Because whenever you lose, you start to question everything, right? Like, I mean, like for example,
we're questioning if Myles Garrett is an elite edge rusher. I've seen some really wild takes on that. So you question everything.
Like, can you imagine if it was Kevin Stefanski instead of Bill Belichick, who played his starting first-round quarterback for a little bit and then said, no, actually, we're going to play Bailey Zappi. And who's the starter? Who's to say? I don't know. You don't know. Like,
that was wild, man.
But he's Bill Belichick, so obviously he can do whatever he wants. But you know what? That doesn't change the fact that those decisions look really bad, objectively, right? But he obviously gets the benefit of the doubt. It's not like they're winning. I mean, they made the Browns look, which makes me feel even worse about the Patriots game, personally. But my point is that when you're losing, nobody would have said anything about the decision Bill Belichick made if they won that game against Chicago. But because They lost it. And so all I'm saying is that when you do get that guy who is legitimately a team changer, a franchise changer, I imagine it's hard for me to imagine that things won't improve from that perspective. With the Kevin
I continue to see teams under his tutelage offensively that are in every game. Like they even were in the Patriots game late because they made a few plays and until that muffed punt. But like they were in it late even then. And we continue to talk about the lack of talent at all the important positions on offense. And then we'll be like, but Kevin Stefanski figured it out. You need to call a perfect play for a quarterback that's thrown 4 interceptions on Christmas. Someone told me that was Kevin Stefanski's fault. That Christmas loss was on Kevin Stefanski and his play calling. That was a fun thing that happened today.
I do think, okay, so if you're looking at the 3 true sides, the special teams, defense, and offense, right? I think Kevin Stefanski is being far more let down by his special teams coordinator and his defensive coordinator than he is letting them down. Like, I'm not saying he's perfect, and I do have questions especially about when we get in 2 minutes, either 2 minutes to halftime or 2 minutes left of the game. I think there's some questionable decisions that have been in there. However, the Browns' return game is non-existent in any fashion, form, or anything. It's non-existent. There is none.
If one more dude runs out a ball 5 yards deep in the end zone, I swear to God.
Do you trust the Browns right now if they're in a deadlock situation against Cincinnati and they line up to onside kick it to us? Do you trust the Browns to recover that punt?
No.
Kick? No, I don't either. Okay? I mean, these are basic fundamental functions of your special teams that you have zero confidence in at all. I mean, that's abysmal. That Mike Prefer, I can't do it with Mike Prefer anymore. I can't. That's, say anything you want about Joe Woods. I think Mike Prefer is doing a worse job with special teams than Joe Woods is doing with the defense.
Well, at least for the most part, Joe Woods' defense has been like, I don't want to say good enough, but they have at times been good enough to win games. I don't know that Prefer's like the kickers are fine. Cade York, love Cade York. Corey Bojorquez, love him, although sometimes he outkicks his coverage. But still, like those guys are fine. But the coverage in the return teams, it's like I don't. Let's catch up on these comments and we'll dive some more into stuff. If Stefanski is making Brissett look okay, imagine what he'll do. Yeah, that's my point.
Yeah.
And we saw a lot of really interesting wrinkles during training camp with an athletic quarterback.
We did.
We all deserve to be frustrated. Let's be real. The whole NFL season has been insane. The Bucks and Packs lost to the Panthers and the what? I've got something to say. This is funny. Someone sent me, it's my editor, it was Randy Gurzy, sent me a picture of 3 old dudes, and it said Matt Ryan, Aaron Rodgers, and Tom Brady in 2022. And listen, like Matt Ryan has kind of been on a decline for a couple of years, so that one doesn't surprise me. Rodgers was the freaking MVP last year, dude. And then he just comes out and it's just like, hey, by the way, I kind of stink. And then he's like on McAfee's show saying stuff about, well, if they're not playing, they need to cease. He's talking about people getting taken off the field and cut out their reps on like, listen, as bad as the things the Browns have said in the media, and they've said some bad things.
Yeah. I mean, I know Brady's personal business is all over everywhere, but at least he's not calling out. Well, I guess he's yelling at his linemen too. But you know what? You said Rodgers was the MVP last year. Brady led the league in passing last year.
Yeah.
They're both hot dog water right now. They are. I mean, good God, Aaron Rodgers was laying on the ground looking like he was never going to get up again after he lost to Washington. You know,
which like I'd be embarrassed. I'd be embarrassed too. It's all right. Did anyone see Deion Jones? Yeah, Deion Jones. I thought it looked like a guy that hasn't played in a year and a half. Yeah, it was funny. The Steelers, Brady, Roger, Belichick, they all lost. MC agrees it's more situational with Stefanski.
Yeah, I would say so too.
Someone told me to trade Myles Garrett. Yep, been there. Somebody has in fact told me that.
They legitimately addressed the trade Denzel Ward talk today on 92.3 because people have now convinced themselves that Denzel Ward sucks and he should go.
I mean, he's been pretty bad. I'm not gonna.
I know. I'm not. But you signed him in the summer to $100 million whatever.
I don't think you should trade him, but like I'm not going to like defend him this year outside of one game.
I can't defend his play, but I mean,
know it doesn't make sense to me, but there's a lot of questions like on that side of the ball. Like, let's talk, so it's one of these things where there's just so much that you have this like jumbled mess when you try to talk about it. And it's like, you know what I mean? It's like, I'm trying to get all of my thoughts together and I'm trying to think like, back to all of this stuff that happens. So in all of this happens and you lost on a block kick. Okay. All right. So let me think about this. All of this stuff, if you don't get a false start there, and we're not going to talk about that. I'm done talking about the fucking false start. But if you don't get a false start there, maybe you win the game. So then, what if Cade doesn't yank the one against the Chargers?
Yeah.
Oh, well, now you're 4-3.
I know.
So what I'm getting at is like this season, it may be too late to make the playoffs. 2-5, I think they have like 6% chance of making the playoffs. That number hurts. Anyway, I hate 6.
Yeah.
So I don't know that they'll make the playoffs. I think they can be competitive. I think they can win some games. I think things can get really exciting when Watson gets back. But, I keep looking at all this stuff and I think this team's not far off. Like, I just don't think they're far off. They need a franchise quarterback. Well, we believe we have that. And I said it again the other day. I do wish he wasn't here at all. I wish we were having a different conversation when it comes to quarterback, because anytime I try to praise him in the Browns outlook, you become like this disgusting villain. And I don't know. But my point becomes, you think you have that, right? Okay. So what else do you need? Well, you need a better defensive coordinator. Okay. Yep. We'll go and we'll find one, I think.
I think you can.
I think you get interesting. It gets really interesting because let's say Watson comes in. I told you this pregame. I said Watson comes in, say he wins 5 of those games. And I'm not saying he will, but let's just say he wins 5 of them. Let's say he loses to probably Baltimore is the one that'll probably beat him. Baltimore or Cincinnati. One of them, he loses one of those games and he goes 5-1. You think that's not going to attract some of these bigger name coordinators?
Yeah.
Because that's what you're doing, right? Like, that's what Carolina doesn't want to trade Brian Burns or Derek Brown, because they want to use those in JC Horn, because they want to use those pieces to attract it. You can still put something together that really sets you up in 2023. I just don't know that it can happen in 2022. It can. It definitely can.
It could.
I don't think so. I just don't. I think they'll find a way to get to 7 or 8. I think they'll find a way to get to 7 or 8. The offense will look better. You'll need to make some changes on defense, but JOK. Oh my God, can we talk about that for a second? JOK was JOK. Finally, JOK played like the rookie JOK, and so you've got some exciting pieces. I love JOK flying all over that field, but you can put yourself in a position where this team can absolutely compete next year. I thought they could compete this year, because if you did something weird and you got in the playoffs, you have a good enough offense with that quarterback to make a run. If you were to sneak in, I just think you've lost too many at this point.
I will say one positive, right? Not many 2-5 teams have the ability to suddenly turn your whole season around for like the last 6 games. Right? Like the Browns do have that ability. So that is at least encouraging. It's at least something that I think, even say the Browns really go on a losing streak. Like, I don't want them to lose for another month straight, but let's just say things really, I think the fact that Watson is coming back helps prevent things from truly going off the rails, because the guys in that locker room know too that a supremely talented player is coming back, and I think that you have that working in your favor, even though things don't look great right now. But Jacob, to your point about, I just want to address this real fast. Sorry about that. I just had to move this. We have the luxury of some hindsight now. And as you look at the quarterback landscape of the NFL and the NFL free agents or trades that moved around, right? Matt Ryan is already benched. The Falcons are throwing the ball like 10 times a game with Marcus Mariota.
Sometimes it works, though. That's the wild part.
Which is crazy. It worked against the Browns. And you know what? That's another thing. Lamar completed like 10 passes. You know what? Woof. But we have confirmed that even though he looks terrible this year, I mean, nobody knew that, but the Browns tried to get Russell Wilson. He told you no, right? We have seen how Baker Mayfield has performed in Carolina. Okay, so when you look around at these quarterbacks that did move teams, that were available, that the Browns could have done when they themselves already knew that Baker Mayfield wasn't the answer, who else's door were they supposed to go knocking on? I'm legitimately asking, because when I look around at all the new quarterbacks and all the new places and the guys that they had an opportunity to get, I mean, it doesn't look like a particularly enticing set of options outside of one guy.
And you know what it ends up being? If you don't have a quarterback in this league, and that's what's happened to the Browns. They don't have one right now. And Brissett has been better than I expected, but because he can't, like I said this during the game, like they can't play behind the sticks. And so if they've got a 3rd and 7 or more, they just don't have a high conversion rate. Like it's just, they can't deal with penalties. They can't deal with negative yardage. They cannot deal with not getting successful plays in successions. They almost can't deal with one of their 3 plays being a net no gain, like an incomplete pass. If they get an incomplete pass on 2nd down or 1st down, and they don't get 5 or 6 yards, on the other down going into 3rd, it just like they play from behind. He just doesn't have that talent to take him to that next level. But I look at this and I'm like, okay, so they're a quarterback. Like, so people say, well, Deshaun Watson doesn't fix all these problems. They've lost 4 games, by a combined 9 points. Let me think. I think Watson beats the Ravens. I think he beats the Jets because I think they're able to turn it back on if they needed to. And I think he beats the Falcons. So let's flip that. That's 3 games. So that's 5-2. So yeah, an elite quarterback fixes a lot. And look at it, Lamar, and like for example, like one of the biggest things, that deep shot that they take that call OPI, which I still think was bullshit, but people are like, why is he throwing it deep on 3rd and 2? It worked. They called a penalty. Everything about that play worked except for Amari pushing off. Now, did he push off? Yes. I do not believe it was enough to gain an advantage because I think they were hand fighting the whole way. Like if he doesn't push off, I think he still catches it. You never know necessarily, but like even in that game, you almost won it with that quarterback. But Watson, let's say they don't get it. They can go for it on 4th down and Watson runs for it, whatever. I don't know. What I'm getting at is if you don't have a quarterback in this league, we've learned very, very quickly, like even in Tampa Bay where their quarterback's where Brady's not Brady and Rodgers isn't Rodgers. And it's like everybody says, well, Watson's not going to fix all these things. Scoring more points. Remember 2020? Do you remember why they won in 2020? Because they scored a lot of points. Their defense wasn't very good, It was okay. It was very opportunistic. They forced a lot of turnovers, so which they have not done this year, which is probably the biggest difference between this year, last year, and the year before. Because last year wasn't as good as 2020 in terms of turnovers, and this year's especially. They're just not getting any bounces or anything. Although JOK being just punching that ball out in that game when he causes that fumble, it was just like, that was what this defense is supposed to have been doing this whole time. That was what I thought, right? But, if you score a bunch of points, and this team has scored quite a bit with a not great talent at quarterback. Like, I don't know, it's the same sad song because we're starting to get to the point where we can't even really talk about this year if things keep going like this. You're going to have to start talking about the future and evaluating things and all of that stuff. And that sucks early on because we put so much into this. We give so much emotional bandwidth and all of that stuff.
I mean, Jacob's driving up from every which where to go to training camp, to go to platform, to go to games, to do all. And it takes tolls on all of us, and we love doing it, but it is so much easier when the Browns just give you a little something to go on. So, I don't know. I think that segues nicely into a tweet I sent out today. And as we look towards this Halloween game, the Browns have still not lost to the Bengals since Kevin Stefanski has been your head coach. They've had Cincinnati's number for whatever reason, and
they match up really well.
Yeah. And we had 2 TVs going for the Browns game this week. So I saw the Atlanta-Cincinnati game, and Joe Burrow is red hot. Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd are just Hayden Hurst they're just eating people alive right now through the air. So I know that matches up really, really roughly against us. However, the Browns have always been able to run on them. They've always been able to get to Joe Burrow. They've always been able to pressure him and make his day difficult. So those are the things you're going to have to lean on. And you know what? The Browns have lost so many games that they should have won, in my opinion. I think if you want any part of salvaging anything, you're headed into the bye, right? So you're headed into the bye. You can get 2 weeks of positive vibes that you desperately need if you can win. And you're at home. It's Monday night. It's prime time. It's in front of America. There's a lot of things that are in play here, and I think a win on this Monday night would go so far for just improving morale on a team that desperately needs it.
Yeah, and I gotta ask a question about why do we think that players there seems to be a lack of interest in playing hard, and I just think that some people a lack of player enthusiasm on the defensive side. And I just think that once the losing started, so once they lost in the fashion that they did to the Jets, and then it happened again, I think that people that were questioning some others started blaming everyone else instead of looking in the mirror. And that falls on a lot of players. I don't know. You know what? I will say this. Let's end this thing. Let's talk a little bit about some of the other stuff as we're just kind of throwing some things. I thought the defense looked better. There were some issues. John Johnson still, we talked about that stuff. And Grant Delpit, I thought, was a little bit better. I thought JOK was JOK. Miles was affecting things. Having Clowney out there was really nice. Togiai made a few plays I thought were pretty good. I thought they didn't get gouged. So, though they let up points and yards, I didn't think they got gouged. I thought that there was not as many explosive plays, which was a nice start. And then you just, I don't know. I really felt like instead of getting shit canned. They just got kind of kicked a little bit defensively. So I thought that there was some more aggression. They put a lot of pressure on Lamar. I think Joe Woods actually has a pretty good scheme against Lamar the last couple of games because he had the 4 interceptions that they couldn't win on Sunday Night Football last year. And then of course he goes down early after JOK hits him in the second game that they did win. I will say that a team that makes progress amidst a lot of challenges, a lot of struggle, a lot of bad tape, that for the most part, I thought everybody on defense stepped up a little bit. Jacob Phillips still struggled, but what I meant was I think I saw a lot of people play better outside of a couple of people.
I mean, traditionally, Lamar Jackson kills the Browns. Every time his stats are astronomically good. I know he threw 4 interceptions. He still led them back. I mean, he threw for 120 yards. He rushed for 60. He didn't throw a touchdown, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, you didn't let Lamar Jackson beat you, who always beats you. There are
Mark Andrews didn't.
No, Mark Andrews. Oh my God, the Browns. So they seem to be playing. Oh man, they seem to be playing a little better defensively. It's just, you know what, the effort stuff is just, that's why I'm sighing, because like you look at that and you're like, well, finally Lamar didn't beat you. That's pretty encouraging. And then what? Then you see clips of this efforts. Like that's
a few bad plays, right? So like they move the ball a little bit there, and then they get into the red zone where you should tighten up. And they had some nice red zone defense. There were some a couple of drives they really played really well, and of course JOK has that fumble, the forced fumble there as well. Yep. But like then you look at that touchdown that we alluded to with the effort from Johnson, and it's just like, why are you stopping? Yeah. Like, why are you just like, you know what? We'll spot him 7 points. Mm-hmm. Like, I agree. Everything that I wanted.
Spot him 7. They won by 3.
And I look at it and I keep thinking to myself, like, I don't know, man. I as much of the good things that were in there, it just frustrates you when you see a team that just doesn't seem to be as invested as you.
Woof. I completely, I mean, thinking about, like, I mean, this is a full journey, right? Like, and Jacob used the mock draft word with me pre-show today. And if anybody, and I'm sure a lot of you that are here right now have been with us for that, right? You know how long, especially Jacob, spends learning all these prospects, getting into the nitty gritty, and talking about all these potential scenarios. And we're talking about all this stuff that goes into all these seasons. And so, that's tough. And I think that's the part that I am also struggling with. So I'm just hoping, you know what, you're in the national spotlight on Monday night, and you really have a chance to show some rally, show some heart, show some fight, show some real, show your fans that you want it, that this season is not over. I mean, because if you go to 2-6, that's to me, that's just, I mean, so much worse than any of us would have imagined through 8 games. So
start trading people at that point.
I'm not trying to be depressing, you know what I'm saying? Like but I am going to be honest, and 2-5 is not easy on anybody. I mean, the Steelers are 2-5, and the world might as well be ending in Pittsburgh. They have no idea how to handle this at all. Oh man, I will tell you, watching Kenny Pickett throwing that game-ending interception was I don't know.
Been there.
I've been there once or twice. So I'm hoping. I think you're hoping, Jacob, and that's what we've got to do right now. That's what we've got to do. You know what I'm saying? Like yes, we're all frustrated. We're all down on 2-5. Who isn't down on 2-5? But that doesn't mean we can't still get up on Monday and be like, you know what, the Browns play today. Let's see what you're made of. I feel like this is a true, like, cracks are showing. Questions are there, locker room yelling, decision making. I got to be better. That's on me. Whatever thing you want to use, Joe Woods, Mike Prefer, all this stuff, right? But you can go so far, such a long way to helping this stuff if you just win Monday.
You're good enough.
You're good enough. They've continually beat Joe Burrow. They keep beating Joe Burrow. It's the only team in the division that they've legitimately just been better than. And so I hope they continue to be, but they need to be. They have to be.
There are good football players on here. There have been opportunities you couldn't seize this year. I'm not ready to like fold it up and say, let's pick in the top 35, because right now you have the 35th pick right now, just so we're clear about that. You don't have a first round pick, but you still have what I consider a pretty high pick. Man, don't give Houston a top 5 pick. Don't do it. Don't do what they did to us when they gave us a top 4 pick. We're not doing that. For Watson. Anyway, Denzel Ward exists because of that trade in Cleveland.
Yeah.
He's in Cleveland because of that. Guys, that's where we're at, man. There's talent. You can win. I don't know if they can turn this thing around. They can be competitive. They can give you hope for the future. But right now, that's where I'm at. I just don't believe that some people want it as badly.
I agree.
And that's where I'm at.
I agree. Go Cavs.
I agree. Go Cavs.
That's just a funny thing that it's an inside joke, but it's also our show. However, I don't know. Sitting here talking to you guys, I'm still gonna get excited on Monday. I'm still somehow gonna get excited and let's see where we're at. Let's see. We'll learn a lot. We'll learn a lot on Monday, because I'll guarantee you this. If they lose on Monday, we've been on this road before. Some heavy hit piece about the locker room and rumors are all of that starts. All of that starts on the bye week. We know what happens. We know how this goes. Please don't take us back there. Please don't take us back there. We don't want to go there. It'll be Jacob mock draft season. I can't wait we'll do some labs, some Jacob prospects. Let's break them down.
Let's break her down, baby. Special episode of I Agree Go Cavs drops 8 a.m. tomorrow morning.
8 a.m. tomorrow morning. Donovan Mitchell is him. And he is. So, this has been episode 80. We miss you, Jarvis Landry, of the Barking Brown Show. I'm Nick. He's Jacob. Go Browns.
I guess.